Hi, my name is Chloe Stokes. I go to John Brown University in Salem Springs, Arkansas. And when I first started there as a freshman, I had no interest in film. Didn't even think about the fact that it existed, that there was a major in it, or that I could have any part of it. And then I had somebody introduce me to the film industry, and as soon as I worked on my first film, I fell in love with it. At John Brown University, the way that the film department works is freshmen, sophomores, juniors, they all work on senior films, and senior film is our capstone project for the end of our 4 years there. It's the way that we earn our degree, so to say. But as a freshman, in my second semester, I worked on my first senior film. I wasn't even a film major at the time, and I just absolutely loved it. I loved the fast-paced environment on a film set, and loved creating something out of nothing, which a lot of people say isn't possible, but if you think about it, film is genuinely creating a solid visual picture out of what at first was just a thought in your brain. And I just think that's so beautiful. A couple of the projects I worked on before making this documentary was more so just senior films. I worked on a lot of senior films here and there, but also I created small projects of my own for different classes. I also edited footage that was given to us for projects in classes, and mainly just did a lot of assistant directing work on other projects. I've done some grip work, audio work, you name it. I've probably been in that role on a film set. And I would say I've probably been involved with about 15 films up at this point, collectively, whether I had a small part or a big part. Technically, I would say that this is my first film. It is the first film with an actual story and lots of thought put behind it. I did do one other independent project before this called The Love of God, but I would call that just a 2-minute music video more so than a film. So I would say that this definitely is my first film. And just to tell you a little bit about the background of how I came up with the idea and how everything started. So I grew up a pastor's kid. I was a pastor's kid for basically my entire life. And I've been taught, all sorts of things about the Bible, about religion, about Christianity. And when I first started college, I was still very much a devout Christian, but as I started going to college, I wouldn't necessarily blame it on my college, so to say, but I think as I grew up and I became more mature, I started to kind of question the things that I'd been taught. And a lot of the things that I had been taught, or the things that were constantly surrounding me, was the idea of routine religious practices and the ideas of going to church twice every Sunday and once every Wednesday, and you had to go to Sunday school and you had to sing exactly 3 worship songs that morning before we got into the service, things like that. And those are just very specific things, but every church has routine. Every church has religious practices that they do, and there's nothing wrong with them, but a lot of the times we get into such the routine that we focus more on the things we are doing for God rather than God and our relationship with Him. And I know that I wasn't the only one who had grown up in the church and come out of it, and I wanted to explore other people's reasons for leaving the church, because mine were mainly the routine, and it just got boring and it got meaningless. And once this project started, my dad, as a pastor, started rethinking as well, and we've had many conversations over what we call the institution of the church. And my family strongly believes that the church has become an institution rather than the church, rather than the body of Christ, which is what we are called to be, which caused my dad to walk away from the church, to resign as pastor. And we started our own home church at my house, and There's no routine about it. There's no religion about it. We just gather when we want to, and we worship, and we talk about the Lord, and there's no set, number of songs that we sing. There's no set lessons or anything. It's just how the Holy Spirit speaks to my dad in the moment, and I think that's how it should be for every church service. So to start this project, I actually called my mom to ask her what I think it should be called. And this was for a documentary class that I was in. We were all required to come up with a few ideas for documentaries, and they got voted on, and whichever got the most votes was made. And so when I was asking my mom for ideas, trying to come up with some stuff, she gave me this one, and I thought it was just absolutely perfect. And she gave me the title for it, and I thought it was perfect for that too, because I call my mom Momma, and it worked out in a lot more ways than one. And everything just kind of started coming together. I put out a feeler for people who might want to be in it. I had a couple decide they didn't want to, or they weren't able to. It wasn't in their best interest, certain different reasons. But the 5 people that I did get to volunteer were probably the most perfect people I could have possibly gotten. They all said amazing things that were all different, but also all had a unique theme. And I noticed that a lot of them were talking about hypocrisy, and that can come into play with routine and religion, to the point where people, belittle others for not doing certain routine or religious practices, or doing too many of them while they're doing the same thing. And just a lot of things intertwined within the 5 interviews, and it was really nice to sit down and talk to all 5 of them and hear what they had to say and hear their different perspectives, or their different reasons. And another thing I thought was interesting was I had 2 of them have a 45-minute to an hour-long interview, while one of them was exactly 10 minutes long. She was in and out of there, very quickly. But I thought that was very interesting. It's like, even though they had very similar views, it was like this person was able to, dive super deep into it and spread it out. And I wish I could have gotten all of their responses in. Unfortunately, I had, a time restraint, and that's okay, give and take. And, but it was still really, really interesting to see the 45-minute interview versus the 10-15-minute interview, and how, even though they were so far apart in, delving deep into it, they still had very similar points of view, and it was just very interesting. I'm kind of a nerd, so my favorite movie is 10 Things I Hate About You, mainly because it's based off of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. I like that one a lot just because I think we get really into the emotions of each character, and that's something that, I genuinely thrive on, is making sure if I watch a movie and I don't feel the emotion of the character that we're focusing on, I'm not interested. I want to watch a movie and feel it. I want to feel like I'm in it, in the moment, and that it's real and it's happening in real life, and that I'm there in the midst of it. And if I watch a movie and I don't feel like that, I'm not interested. It's not something that I want to watch. So the main things that I like are 10 Things I Hate About You, Perks of Being a Wallflower, Donnie Darko, Juno, The Social Network. All of those are very emotional movies, and movies that I genuinely, when I watch them, I feel like I'm there in the moment, and I can feel everything that each character is feeling. And those are just some of my favorite movies. I would describe it as a pretty even mix of blunt and strict, but also understanding and patient, which I know they can be contradicting sometimes. But I know what I want, and I try my best to get what I want, but I also understand that doesn't always happen, and I can be patient in those moments. I'm also very understanding of people. I feel like can be empathetic when I need to be or when I want to be, and I can kind of turn it off and on. So if there's a time for empathy, I can sit down and be empathetic with an actor or, a crew member, and I feel like I can actively be their friend and try to understand anything that might be going on. But at the same time, still trying to be on schedule and trying to make sure that everything is done in the way that I've envisioned it. If I were given a good budget, I would expand on this particular documentary. A plan that I have and I would love to execute, and if I get the money or if I get connected with a good production company, I think I will do it. I want to expand on this documentary. I want to do a feature-length documentary, and I want to not only touch on those who grew up in the church and then left the church for certain reasons, but I also want to dive into those who have had contradicting religious growings up, and those who did not go to church their entire life and started going when they were an adult and still have complicated, things thrown at them, and don't have a very good understanding of the Bible just because of what they've been taught. And I think it'd be amazing to expand on that and also see, certain couples who had two different backgrounds, whether one was Christian and one was Catholic, and when they got married had to figure out what they were going to do together religiously. And I just think it would be very interesting to sincerely spread on that and expand a lot more the ideologies and different points of view on the church, on the Bible, on religion, on Christianity, etc. So that would definitely be what I would do if I had a good budget, would be an expansion of this documentary. Biggest thing is I want to make sure that, everybody's available at the same time. And if they're not, having a backup plan, or having backup people that can be there. We ran into a couple snags. We were supposed to film 2 weekends in a row, and it turns out one of the weekends didn't work, so we had to film on a Tuesday. I don't like filming during the week. That's not fun. But we had to, and that's what we needed to do to get the rough cut in on time. And sometimes you just have to be super harsh with people and say, listen, I need you here at this time. If you absolutely cannot make it, let me know as soon as possible so that I can get a backup person, or we can schedule a different day, And that's what I did with a lot of actors and crew members. I said, if you are not available this day, if you absolutely cannot make it, I need you to tell me as soon as possible so that we can get a different day scheduled, or a different time, or a different person, whatever the case may be. I think the hardest part was having 2 people back out at the last minute saying that they were able to, and then unforeseen circumstances came up and they weren't able to be involved. And that's okay. It happens. And, you just got to be patient and keep going. And that's okay. The hardest part was just I would have liked more points of view, but it just wasn't possible. And that's okay. I did my best with the 5 that I had, and it turned out just as fine. It turned out perfectly, in my opinion. So, sometimes you get bumps in the road and you just got to keep moving forward, and it's okay. I think the biggest thing is I like even lighting more than anything. Sometimes, if you can see my face right now, it's completely lit on this side, but it's a little shadowy and dark on this side. I'm not a big fan of that. I like evenly lit things, especially for this documentary. You want to see every single wrinkle and crevice in each person's face when they're talking about this, a very emotional time and point of view. I think that was the biggest thing that I was wanting, was I want close-ups, and I want to make sure that everything is evenly lit so that we can see every single bit of emotion that's going through this person's face as they are talking about this, because this is an emotional thing to talk about. This is not an easy thing to discuss. This is a very hard thing to discuss, something you've known your entire life, and now you're questioning everything about it. You don't want to hide any emotion when it comes to that. If you can get every emotion, if I can get every emotion on camera, I'm going to. That's my biggest filmmaking technique. My next work is my senior film. Here in about 3-4 weeks, I will be starting my senior year at JBU. And I'm super excited because the film that I am working on, I've already written the entire script, and I'm super, super happy with it. I've already started on my production book. And thinking about shooting schedules. I already have 3 actors committed to my film, and I'm not even shooting till spring. And so that's super exciting. The fact that things are already rolling. The ball is already rolling on it, and it's not even shooting until spring. That's just so exciting to me. But I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's about a man who has neglected his only child for nearly 30 years after losing his wife, and now wants to reconnect with him after his child has had a child of his own, and the man has found out that he is dying. And the biggest thing is, I genuinely do not want to know what he's dying from. I did not come up with that. I want the audience to, use their imagination. They can decide what he's dying from. I did not even specify what the wife died from. And again, the audience can use their imagination on that. Because to me, that's not what matters. It doesn't matter what he's dying of, why he's dying. It matters that he is trying to connect with his son again, and it is a hard, slippery slope. It's not fun, and it's really emotional, and you never know what's going to happen. You never know if the son's going to get mad or if he's going to accept what his father is saying to him. There's a lot of back and forth and misunderstanding and miscommunication and trying to get back on the same page, and there's just a lot of emotion going on, and I'm super excited about it because I want it to be an emotional film. And when my professor first read it, he cried. And that was, I know it's crazy to smile about, like you shouldn't be happy about somebody crying, but that was a big thing for me. He said, this is so emotional. And that was just the rough script. That was the first draft. That wasn't even finished. And that was just a big thing to me. It spoke volumes to me that I was able to write something like that and come up with a story out of thin air. And I can't even relate to it. That was the craziest thing to me, was that I don't relate to this story at all. That nothing in my life has happened even remotely similar to this story that I've created. I just came up with it. And it amazes me because I didn't think I'd come up with it. And I'm just super excited to actually see it on the screen. And to work on it and get it done. So yeah, that's my next work, and just the plans I have for the future is to graduate from JBU with my bachelor's degree, and here in a couple years I go to law school, which I know that sounds crazy. People are like, hold on a second, you're in the film industry and you're going to go to law school. I like to be a well-rounded person as much as possible, so that is my plans for the future, is after graduating from JBU, I will take a couple years to save up, figure out where I'm at, and then I'm going to go to law school. I'll get my Juris Doctorate, and we'll see where life takes me from there. I'm not sure yet. I know right now, here in 3 weeks, I'm getting married, so that is something for the near future. Just a fun fact about me. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I'm so glad that I got to talk to you, and thank you, Tokyo Short Film Festival, for allowing me this opportunity. This is super exciting, and good luck to anybody else who have submitted their films. Also, if I'm allowed to, shameless plug here, follow me on Instagram at Crow Captures, CROW Captures, like the photo camera. I also do photography, so if you're local and you want photos, hit me up. I also have a Facebook page, same thing, Crow Captures, and YouTube, where you can find this film, Not Your Mama's Church, and other films that I've done or projects that I've worked on, and that's also under Crow Captures. So thank you guys again for watching and listening, and I'm glad I got to tell you about this film. It's a really fun, exciting project for me, and yeah, thank you. Bye, guys.